At this point, the offseason has officially ended and spring training has begun for MLB, so I'm going to talk about every MLB team's best offseason move for the 2025 season. And I'm going to start out with the Cincinnati Reds, because in the last video, I ruined my ranking for them, and I feel bad for Reds fans. I think that the Brady Singer for Jonathan India trade was awesome for the Cincinnati Reds, but the Gavin Lux trade was even better in my opinion, and I'm really sorry for forgetting about that in the last video. It really is a great move for the Cincinnati Reds, and I think it is their best move of the offseason. Again, thank you Reds fans for letting me know in the comments that I was completely wrong about their ranking. Moving over to the Washington Nationals, I'm gonna go with the Trevor Williams extension at 2 years, $14 million. He was amazing last year. Even if he only pitched 13 games, he had a 2.03 ERA. It's just an incredible statistical season, and it's a great signing to bring him back for 2 seasons. The Toronto Blue Jays have had a strange offseason, but for me, it's either the Anthony Santander signing or the Jeff Hoffman signing, depending on if Hoffman is healthy or not. 3 teams passed on Jeff Hoffman due to physical concerns. However, if Jeff Hoffman does stay healthy, his 3-year, $33 million contract is an absolute steal for how good he is. But if he's injured, it could end up being terrible. So because of that risk, I think I'm gonna give it to Anthony Santander and his 5-year, $92.5 million contract. He had a very good season with Baltimore, and although I'm not the biggest Anthony Santander guy, I think this is a good price for a guy like that. He's a walking 35 to 40 home runs every single year, and I think it's amazing to have him in the lineup, especially if you're DHing him. The Texas Rangers, I just loved their offseason. The Nathan Eovaldi extension, the Nathaniel Lau trade, the Jock Peterson signing, but my favorite of all of them is the Jake Burger trade. He hit 250 with 29 homers last year, but 19 of those homers came in his 64 games in the second half of the season. That's incredible production, and if he's able to do that for a full season in Texas, watch out, that lineup is going to be ridiculous. Again, the Rangers have made a lot of good moves this offseason, but I really like the Jake Burger trade. The Tampa Bay Rays have one of the best signings on the entire list, and it's Ha-Sung Kim at 2 years, $29 million. It's an incredible deal. I can't believe no one else did this deal. Even with a little injury maybe knocking him out for the entirety of April and maybe even a little bit into May, it's just such a good deal to get Ha-Sung Kim at around $14 million per year. He's a Gold Glove defender and has a good amount of pop in the bat, and if Tampa's signing you, you know that you're doing something right because they don't tend to spend any money. For the St. Louis Cardinals, oh man, this is a tough one. They haven't done anything, so I'm just gonna go with declining the club option on Kyle Gibson. It's a real bottom of the barrel pick here, but they haven't done anything, and I guess saving $13 million for a bad player, it's not the worst move ever, but they haven't spent it, so maybe I should fault them for being stingy over $13 million when they've done nothing else. The Seattle Mariners, I don't know, man. Again, I know that they signed Jorge Polanco, but he wasn't very good with them in Seattle last year. He had a career worst year for the most part. I know his second half was better, but I just don't like bringing him back. I guess Donovan Solano for 1 year, $3.5 million. Even that feels like a bit of an overpay. Seattle just did nothing. I'm sorry, Seattle fans. For the San Francisco Giants, I guess I'm gonna have to go with Willy Adames, even if I don't love the contract details. 7 years, $182 million is a very big contract for a player that I'm a little concerned about his future. If I had the ability, I would definitely say the Matt Chapman extension because I like that way more, but that happened mid-season, so I can't put that in an off-season video, so the Willy Adames signing will have to do, and it definitely wasn't bad, it just wasn't my favorite of the moves on this list. For the San Diego Padres, they had a slow off-season, but honestly, I think the Mike Shildt extension for 3 years is probably their best move of the off-season. I think he's a pretty good manager, he had that team in the NLCS last year, and I think the Padres are just a well-ran team with Mike at the helm. Also, getting Nick Pivetta for $1 million in 2025 is insane, and that contract overall is like 4 years, $55 million, so that's not bad either. The Nick Pivetta contract is also good, but I'm still giving it to Mike Schilt. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, I have to go with the Andrew McCutchen extension. Bringing him back is always awesome to see, but it was only 1 year, $5 million, and that's really all they've done. I'm sorry, Pirates fans. So many fan bases deserve better, and you guys are definitely one of them. For the Philadelphia Phillies, I'm going with the Jesus Luzardo trade. I think it was an awesome trade. I'm really not concerned about the prospects that they gave up, even if I do like prospects. The Philadelphia Phillies and Dave Dombrowski really do not like holding on to prospects, and I think that this is a good trade because it really rounded out their rotation. Now they can go with Zach Wheeler, Austin Nola, Jesus Luzardo, Ranger Suarez, and Christopher Sanchez. That is a great rotation 1 through 5, and I think the Luzardo trade is really going to help them and their depth in the rotation. It's a good move. For the Yankees, there's definitely one move that stands alone as their best move in my opinion, and it's gotta be the Devin Williams trade. He's one of the best closers in baseball, and they didn't give up too much for him. Caleb Durbin, who's a very solid prospect, and Nestor Cortez. But even Nestor Cortez was losing some money off the books so that they could go out and get Max Fried, or Cody Bellinger, or Paul Goldschmidt. So I really like the Devin Williams trade a lot, and it's scary that the Yankees now have Devin Williams. And I'm really not a huge fan of the Max Fried contract because it's an 8-year contract for an injury-prone pitcher. The money is fine. The length scares me. For the New York Mets, I have the Ryan Stanek extension. Just kidding. Obviously, it's the Juan Soto deal. There were other great moves as well, such as bringing back Sean Manaea and Jesse Winker, and even signing AJ Minter, and of course, getting a player-friendly deal with Pete Alonso was also pretty awesome. But Juan Soto was Juan Soto, and obviously, this is the best move of their offseason. I don't care the contract details, even if it's 15 years, $765 million. It's what they needed to do to get one of the generational talents in MLB today. For the Minnesota Twins, I have Austin Martin changing his number to 16. I'm sorry, they've done nothing good all offseason. I guess they signed Harrison Bader? I'm sorry, but it's Harrison Bader. If that's your best move of the offseason, I'd rather give it to the rookie changing his number to an actual MLB number. I hate the Twins offseason. For the Milwaukee Brewers, honestly, I have declining the option on Frankie Montas. That was a good move for them because it allowed them to get Nestor Cortez and Caleb Durbin in a trade for Devin Williams. I know that they did lose Devin Williams, who's an absolute freak of nature relief pitcher, but the Brewers are able to churn out relief pitchers like no other organization, and Caleb Durbin is a perfect Brewers prospect. He's short, he's fast, he's a good fielder, and a contact hitter. That sounds exactly like a Joey Ortiz or a Bryce Terang. It's a perfect fit for the Milwaukee Brewers in my opinion, and again, being able to get Nestor Cortez because you moved on from Frankie Montas makes declining the option of Montas the best move of the offseason in my opinion, because Cortez is just better than Montas. Some of these pathetic teams like the Miami Marlins make it so difficult for me to give a best move because they've done nothing. Actually, because they DFA'd Vidal Brujan and made a bad trade for Jake Berger, I refuse to give them anything good because nothing happened that was good. So the Miami Marlins, you got nothing. I don't care that you brought in Cal Quintrall. I don't know how to pronounce that name still. I don't care. You're not getting anything good from me. You did nothing good. And from nothing to everything, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers. Everything that they've done deserves credit. I'm being a little facetious here, and their best move is obviously Roki Sasaki. That's the single best move of the entire offseason. They got a true ace for absolutely nothing. That roster is incredible. The Snell signing was awesome. The Tanner Scott signing was awesome. Kirby Yates was awesome. Like I said in the last video, I'm afraid of the Dodgers, and you are too. For the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, I'm gonna go with the Jorge Soler trade. I love Jorge Soler and what he brings to a baseball team, and they got him for a low-end pitcher in Griffin Canning that got DFA'd by the Braves right after the move. So I love the move for the Angels. Also, honorable mention, if they move Mike Trout off of center field and either to DH or left field, that might be the best move of the offseason if it keeps him healthy, because he needs to stay on the field for the Angels to be competitive. Also, another honorable mention is going to be Anthony Rendon being out for the season potentially because he doesn't play baseball anyway, so it's better to just get that out of the way before the season even starts. Good job, Angels. For the Royals, we have a really obvious one here, and that's the Seth Lugo extension. I really didn't mind the Carlos Estevez signing either, but the Seth Lugo extension was amazing. He was an absolute monster last year and one of the best pitchers in baseball. I think he came second in American League Cy Young voting even, and extending him and keeping him around is perfect. His contract extension was for just 3 years, $45 million, and he did come second in Cy Young. I feel like people don't mention that. He was an all-star, came second in Cy Young voting, and won a Gold Glove at starting pitcher last year. He had an incredible season with a 5.3 WAR, and he was even better than Cole Ragans, who people think is an elite pitcher. He was the best pitcher on his staff last year. Now, I've made it clear that I am not a fan of the Houston Astros offseason. However, there is one signing that I am a fan of, and it's the Christian Walker signing for 3 years, $60 million. I don't like their offseason, but that doesn't mean that I have to dislike every move. I think that Christian Walker is a great player, and although this is kind of similar to the Jose Abreu deal from a couple of years ago, I think Christian Walker is better at this point in his career than Jose Abreu was when he signed with the Astros. The Kyle Tucker trade and letting Alex Bregman walk was embarrassing though, and they really shot themselves in the foot, and I really don't know how good the Astros are going to be in 2025 because of those two moves. For the Detroit Tigers, I'm currently struggling between trying to pick Gleyber Torres' 1-year deal with the Tigers and Jack Flaherty's 2-year deal coming back to the Tigers. I'd probably lean towards Flaherty because he was very good with Detroit last year before getting traded to the Dodgers and stinking it up in the postseason. However, Gleyber Torres on a 1-year contract is a pretty nice deal. I just don't know how well Gleyber is going to hit in Comerica Park because that stadium is really large, and obviously if the stadium is large, that leans a little more towards Flaherty and him being a better player, so I think I'd go with Flaherty's 2-year deal. That was a good signing, especially because there were rumors about him getting a potentially 5 or 6-year deal. Getting him for 2 years is awesome in my opinion. On the Colorado Rockies page, I see a screen that says no transactions found. That sounds about right for the Colorado Rockies. So I'm gonna have to go with hiring Charlie Blackmon as a special assistant to the GM. He retired last year, and Charlie Blackmon is a Rockies legend. So I'm glad he's going to the front office to help out the GM. Not that the GM is allowed to spend any money or make any trades, and not that Charlie Blackmon is going to be able to help that, but it is good to see him staying in the organization, and Charlie Blackmon is a real one for staying with the Colorado Rockies for as long as he did. His entire career, he was a Rocky. For the Cleveland Guardians, I have a joint best move, and it's easily the Andres Jimenez and Miles Straw trades. Those contracts were terrible, and cutting them and getting them off the books completely is amazing for Cleveland. They don't spend money at all, and having more money to spend because those bad contracts are gone might allow them next year to maybe sign a free agent that isn't bad. That's a big time win for Cleveland, and they're not losing that much offensively at all. They're actually improving offensively by getting those two terrible bats out of the lineup. Defensively, they might be a little worse. Doesn't matter, they're still a great defensive team. However, the Josh Naylor trade, that one stinks. I really don't like that trade at all. For the Chicago White Sox, although trading away their best player is a little bit weird with how bad they were last year, it completely makes sense. They've had some decent minor league additions as well, which I like the fact that they're at least trying to get a couple of minor league players to maybe flip at the deadline, but the Crochet trade just has to be the best move of the offseason for them. Kyle Teal and Braden Montgomery are both awesome some prospects, especially Kyle Teal. I think he might be the best player on the team by the end of next year. Honestly, he's that solid, along with Chase Mydroff being a really underrated prospect that was in the Red Sox system. And I'm a Red Sox nerd, so I know a lot about their farm system. Chase Mydroff is a pretty good prospect. For the Chicago Cubs, this one's an obvious one, and it's the Kyle Tucker trade. I really don't care what else they did. Landing a player like Kyle Tucker for the price that they did is an unbelievably good move for Chicago. Kyle Tucker is one of the best players in baseball, easily top 10 in my opinion, and when you can get a player like that, that's the best move of the offseason. I don't care what price you're paying. I get to gloat a little bit for the first time in a long time. My Boston Red Sox finally had a good offseason. The Bregman signing, it's awesome, and getting him for just 3 years is amazing because you don't have a long-term commitment. However, I think the Crochet trade was even better for the Boston Red Sox, but there's a caveat to that, and it's that they have to extend him as well. They did give up a lot for him, like I said in the White Sox segment, but they haven't had a true ace since like 2018 Chris Sale because he's been hurt constantly. Garrett Crochet is that true ace. If they don't extend him, I'd end up saying that the Bregman signing is probably better, but I'm assuming that they're going to extend Crochet, and then the Crochet trade is easily the best move of the offseason in my opinion. But they're both really good, and I don't care if there's an overpay on Alex Bregman. I don't care, I'm just happy it happened. For the Baltimore Orioles, another team that's had a bad offseason, but the Tyler O'Neill signing for 3 years, $54 million is a very solid contract in my opinion. I really don't like what they lost again. Corbin Burns, Anthony Santander, it's a problem that they lost those two players. But I really don't mind the Sugano and Charlie Morton signings. Like I said, the Tyler O'Neill signing was easily the best for the Birds this offseason. I feel like the price is lower than I expected him to get going into the offseason. I still think he's a very solid player, but I'm not exactly sure how good he's going to play with the big wall out in left field. I know that they moved the wall in, but it's still really deep out there this year. For the Atlanta Braves, I'm going with the Reynaldo Lopez contract extension. Is that how you pronounce his first name? I've been trying to say that for like 5 minutes straight. I can't do it. And this is because I'm really not a fan of their offseason at all. I don't like the Jorge Soler trade for them, and I really am not a huge fan of the Jerickson Profar contract because of how much they paid, and 3 years for him is kind of crazy. It was the right player, but the contract feels a little big for him. The Lopez extension, that was a good one though, I like it. He was really, really good last year. For the Sacramento Athletics, it's easily the Brent Rooker extension. Everything else was a bit of an overpay in my opinion with Luis Severino and Jose Leclerc, but again, I don't mind them for spending their money. I think that that's good either way, even if they are overpaying. But the Brent Rooker extension was a massive underpay for Oakland, and that's good for them. I'm happy that they were able to keep one of their guys, and a fan base that has struggled for a long time with losing talent gets to keep some talent for once. Good on them. And finally, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks, and this is a bit of an easy one. It's Corbin Burns. Medium market teams making big market acquisitions always will have my respect, even if it doesn't work out at the end. They're trying, and I appreciate that. Personally, I think the Corbin Burns contract is going to turn out just fine. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.